Welcome to the session on Introduction to Aesthetics Part 2. Aesthetics is a branch of philosophy concerned with art and beauty. It is a relatively new branch of philosophy that originated in the early 18th century in England and Germany, or 2000 years after the beginnings of other branches of Western philosophy which began in Greece around 600 BC. Aesthetic, as the study of art and beauty, is closely related to the concept of aesthetic experience. Alexander Baumgarten, during 1714 to 1762, who coined the term aesthetics, argues that human experience the world in one of two fundamentally different ways: logically and aesthetically. Logical experience is the most common way in which we see and experience things by classifying them in practically useful ways. Aesthetic experience, by contrast, is looking at things for their own sake. Just think about how we enjoy looking at a rose or watching a sunset. The main question for aesthetic as a branch of philosophy is, what is the nature of aesthetic experience? You don't have an aesthetic experience because the object you are looking at is beautiful or because it is a work of art, but it is beautiful because you are looking at aesthetically. It is art because it has been made to be looked at aesthetically. Art and beauty, therefore, according to the 18th century aesthetic investigations, are subjective and psychological. They do not exist objectively as properties of object, but only as human ways of perceiving objects. But because our sense organs are similar, our experiences, though subjective, are roughly similar. So even though aesthetic qualities are subjective and psychological and culturally relative, they can be explained as potentially universal for all humans. According to the 18th and 19th century tradition of aesthetics, what we call art is those objects made by people to be enjoyed aesthetically. The early Paleolithic people who produced the famous cave paintings did not make them simply to be viewed, but for ritual, ceremonial and religious purposes. But today we appreciate it as work of arts, though the people who made it never thought of it that way. We may call this art before art, since art created as art, not as religious icons. Aesthetic experience and aesthetics, as the study of aesthetic experience, are notions that have not always existed since the dawn of human society or since the beginning of Western civilization. It is a relatively new development. Though aesthetics as a study of aesthetic experience is a new development, the question of beauty, which is also included in this field, has always been a perennial issue for the philosophers since Plato. So we have to consider these twin concerns, that is, the theory of beauty and the theory of art, separately. Now, as an introduction to the subject aesthetics, let us try to outline the basic historical roots along which the problems of aesthetics have evolved. As I have already mentioned, we have two major divisions in this session: the theory of beauty and the theory of art. We will start with the theory of beauty. Western theories of beauty start with famous Greek philosopher Plato during 428 to 348 BC. He has included beauty as a theme of discussion in his book Symposium. According to the Platonic philosophy, beauty transcends